Hi guys, welcome to episode 4 of the Teacher Tech Revolution podcast. My name is William Parker, and I'm a full-time teacher and coach in a growing school district in the old North State of North Carolina, and I'll be your captain on this voyage through teacher tech tools. And I'm glad you're here. This is an introductory episode to a group of episodes that I'll be doing that focus on using tech tools that blend learning in the classroom. There will be a total of 4 tech tool episodes that make up this group. The first episode was actually my second episode that I did, and it was on Edpuzzle. The next episode will be setting up and using Pear Deck. Then I'll move on to Quizizz for episode 4, and I will finish it all off with Flipgrid. Now, I found that blended learning to be a great way to engage students with technology and to give students that individualized attention that struggling students need. The tools that I use are tools that I've helped bridge the gap of understanding for all my students. Now, these tools in itself may not work for all teachers, but for me, they are great items. And so I use Pear Deck and Edpuzzle to help deliver my content that I want to get to my students. Then I use Flipgrid to create discussions within the class. And then I use Quizizz to help assess the progression of my students so I can help with remediation. Now, these are the tools that I use, and they work fantastic. So the first tool that I'm going to talk about in blended learning is a program called Pear Deck. Pear Deck started out as an extension to Google Slides, but more recently they added the integration with Microsoft Office 365, which gives schools that are office-based a way to use Pear Deck in their class. Now, Pear Deck is more than just an extension for your Google Slides or Office 365. It is a program that allows students to interact with the presentation itself. I like it because I can give my students a poll. I can ask questions as I'm going through the presentation, and I can also make it interactive where they have to drag and drop different parts of the slide in the presentation. Overall, Pear Deck allows you to keep students engaged in a way with the presentation that is not possible without the use of technology. In class, we may go through some notes and tell them to write down most important parts, or you give them a worksheet that they have to follow along. But really, are they paying attention to what is being said, or are they just writing stuff down? Pear Deck allows you as a teacher to engage with the students the information from the PowerPoint in a way that is not possible without the use of Pear Deck. So the other content delivery tool that I use is Edpuzzle. Edpuzzle is an online tool that allows a teacher to take an online video and add multiple choice questions to it, true and false questions to it, and or written response questions. So now students don't just watch videos, but they have to actually interact and engage with it as well. It also gives teachers a means of checking for understanding of the material that you assign through the video. Teachers, we all have that moment where we find this awesome 10-minute video about Rome, and we want to show it in class because it's just great review material or extension to something that we've done. But as soon as we put it on, heads go down, phones come out, or they start talking to their neighbor. With Edpuzzle, hey, now as they watch the video, they actually have to answer questions about it, so they actually have to pay attention to it, and you make them engage with it in a way that wouldn't be possible without the Edpuzzle program. Now, this was also one of the first tools that I started to use a few years back, and I've loved it ever since. Lucky for you, I've already completed episodes on this tool already. So if you want to, just go back to episodes 2 and 3, and you'll find information on how to use Edpuzzle in the classroom and how to create content for your classroom as well using Edpuzzle. So the third tool that I use to help facilitate blended learning in my class is a program called Quizizz. And Quizizz is the assessment piece to my blended learning setup. Now, Quizizz is an online assessment tool that is very similar to Kahoot, but Quizizz personally is better than Kahoot. That can be set up to allow students to compete against each other in class, but you can also assign it to them as a homework assignment that they can complete it at their own time when they feel ready to take it. It allows you to set it up to where students can take the assignment multiple times, and if they don't meet the goal that you have for them, they can complete a remediation assignment and then take it again. But really, it just gives you that data that you need to help assess where your students are on a given topic or unit. Within these opportunities for them to take it multiple times, it allows you as a teacher to help those students that are struggling, because you can actually hone in on those students through conferences or individual work sessions to help bridge those gaps so they can be successful on the assignment. But it also allows students that normally would be held back in situations because they have to go as slow as the class. It allows them to go faster and get their work done at a faster pace that meets their needs. And so it helps you as a teacher meet the needs of all your students and not just a certain section of your students. Finally, the last tool that I'm going to talk about is Flipgrid. This is the fourth tool that I use in my class, but it's also the discussion piece for my blended learning setup. It ends up being the most critical part of my blended learning setup because it sparks discourse, leading to critical thinking within my students. Flipgrid is a video discussion program that allows students to answer prompts and then comment on each other's videos. We all have students in our class that are so afraid to speak in front of the class. You can see them tremble as they walk up to talk about a certain topic, or they're sweating profusely in front of the class. But with Flipgrid, the only person the student is talking to is a camera. I personally love to see all those students that are so afraid to speak up in class that are now open to actually speak because they don't have to speak in front of a class, they're just speaking in front of the camera. And it ends their stage fright for speaking in class. Like I stated earlier, these are just the tools that I use in my class. But obviously there are many more tools out there that teachers can use. But these are the tools that I found to work best for me. As I mentioned before, this does mark the beginning of a series of episodes that I'm going to do on blended learning in the classroom. Now, I'm doing this because I feel we have the opportunity to use technology in a way better than we've done before in our classrooms. So stick around, subscribe, and listen to the other parts of the podcast. Thank you for listening. As I mentioned before, this episode marks the beginning of a series of episodes that I'm going to do about blended learning, because we have the opportunity to use technology in a way that is better than we currently do in our classrooms. Hey guys, thanks for joining me for episode 4 of the Teacher Tech Revolution podcast, the first episode of a series of episodes for blended learning. Please subscribe and like the channel so you can know whenever the next episode comes available.